Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Homeland, Season 6, Episode 7, The Return.
7? I think you're off every time.
It's quite possible. Anyway, it'll say in the thing. You'll know. Anyway, the whole conspiracy thing deepens, obviously.
Yeah, this is much more the whodunit, the conspiracy. What the other group is intending is. I know there was a little of that in one episode, but still, the other ones all felt like they're mounting to stop something big.
Right.
Right. This is, potentially something big, but mostly this is about, again, who's working for whom. This is much more a government show,
right?
Government season.
Yes.
And different factions, and there's politics being played than it is stopping the event. And I am very much enjoying that.
No, me too. And again, I think for what, as I've been pointed out before, I think is like we're now to the point of how many conspiracies are there that are going on. Like, is this one big one, or are there a couple that just happen to be running concurrently? Because on the one hand, we know that Dar Adal now is conspiring with Mossad as part of the broader thing of getting Saul to convince the incoming president that Iran is cheating on the nuclear deal. But then how does that tie into Sekou and the bomb and the shipping company and the people across the street who are spying on Carrie?
Because, again, as I mentioned last week, Dar's reaction to Saul, when Saul said, well, yeah, I do think they're lying, but I'm not sure, something suggested that guy had been in that room before. Mm-hmm. Dar seemed, again, trying to read television and read actors, Dar seemed like, well, I didn't know they were going to play a trick on Saul, like something to that extent. But we know he's been talking to the Mossad agent,
right.
the potentially rogue Mossad agent. We
True.
Don't even know whether she's operating fully on with Mossad orders. But
and their kids, someone is keeping her whereabouts and actions a secret. And there's also the whole thing of, we do know that Dar is involved in keeping Piotis isolated. Like the whole thing of having her stashed away at that farm was all him.
Was all trying to make her weak.
Yes.
So that, again, all so that, because again, I think we would have believe, unless we were totally redoing Dar, that he's a badass, right? And not in the necessarily the good way, but he is on the, he believes that an extreme answer to terrorism is the only way, and our vigilance must be hypervigilance, or we'll be exposed and millions of Americans would die. If you were going to defend him, and I think in this case it's worth defending, he's wrong, but he's pure. He does, we think, believe that. It is not so that we can secure more oil contracts. It's not so his contractor buddies can get wealthy.
True.
It's a legitimate belief of, no, you're missing how much danger America's in, and so I'm going to orchestrate some things to make sure you realize that.
It is ultimately about getting his way, though, certainly.
Sure, it's about getting his way, but if you believe your way is the right way for America, and it's not a lunatic way,
right?
He hasn't left. It doesn't involve gravity doesn't exist, or there's no
and it's about saving lives as opposed to, like you say, turning a profit.
Right,
yes.
And that it's legitimately about saving lives. Then obviously, when you start manipulating facts to make that happen, you've crossed into some dangerously unethical territory. But I think what you're suggesting is perhaps true, and what might be true is that Dar has nothing to do with putting a bomb in Sekou Ba's truck and making it seem like this was a terrorist attack.
An opening salvo.
Right, an opening salvo from a militant Muslim that he would never have done and authorized killing 2 Americans or 2 people's lives. But when it happens, he's like, oh, great. Well, it happened. We'll take advantage of it.
Right, yeah. So the question...
So is there 2 conspiracies?
Exactly. And if there is another conspiracy, does it solely exist to somehow jar the Piotis, or is it about something else entirely that we don't even know about yet?
You just refer to her as not Hillary.
Fine. Foolery. Yeah. And I like that we're asking these questions, and the show kind of is keeping us guessing about stuff. And meanwhile, you have Quinn now being, convinced that Carrie is in on this conspiracy, and he obviously is, I think, perfectly allowed to be very paranoid and very suspicious because he's seen shit that's happening and no one wants to believe him because of his PTSD. He has PTSD.
It's the worst possible combination for somebody, who is paranoid and should not be trusted because of their paranoia, and is also justifiably
And
paranoid.
has the evidence,
Right,
yeah.
so it's up to us to determine, is this the crazy paranoia or is this the paranoia that
The
you are
justified.
totally entitled to? And you can see the enormous frustration in Quinn, and as always, I think he does a nice job.
Conlon is turning into a fascinating character.
Not anymore. I mean, he's turned into a fascinating character, and then now he's gone.
Well, but he found yes.
Yes, he was, as again, in the sense of like Dar, what he was saying and his obstinance was caused by a genuine belief that Carrie had come in and freed a dangerous person.
Right.
He believed even though he'd manipulated his CI, he believed him and thought that Sekou was dangerous, and then Ahai did this. But not so much that when Carrie was like, I didn't get it, I don't know where it came from high up. And then he shows him the pictures, and he's not above recognizing, all right, I'm an FBI agent, and there's, you know what, I need to do some of the I part of the FBI,
Right.
And it got him, killed.
So what do we think? What do we think he found? What do we think that company is? The
We don't know.
mysterious Dulles Toll Road.
He didn't find. He was gonna. We know he didn't find much.
Right, but that guy
He knows it's something.
Yeah, and that guy tells him the whole thing about how it's the backbone of the data stream, whatever.
96 point whatever percent of the.
So then if the connection to the Sekou bombing is somebody who's trying to basically take over the internet? I mean, is that what we're?
Right, so they're trying. They orchestrated this bombing to what? To get, for them, it might be to get what they know will be an enormous contract.
I got it. The current president is trying to get the next president to Patriot Act. So this is about spying.
It's about spying,
NSA,
and that they're increase the Patriot Act, and they're the people who have that with the
capacity.
This.
Yeah.
So it's then there's $10 billion a year for them.
Right,
to
and
do
they're
this.
hiring people at hugely
So
inflated
they're like,
salaries.
what we need is that they're going to say what we need is a signature moment that will cause. We know we could get this president. We might not even the signature moment here, but we need to put pressure on her.
Right.
And that would indicate that Dar, if they're putting pressure on her, like Dar keeping her away, seems to work toward that conspiracy and not
Dar's conspiracy?
and not the conspiracy that we presume Dar is in, which is just to get tough on Iran.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting. I do want to kind of point out real quick, I think one of my favorite things about this episode, and just in TV in general lately, is the car trip with the two mothers who've lost sons in the war. Because I think one of the real challenges of the many things that currently divide the nation and make it impossible for one side to talk to the other side is how do you address the idea of a war having been entered into under false pretenses and for no good reason, while at the same time honoring the sacrifices of the people who gave their life or their health or their limbs or whatever to fight that war. And that's a conversation that we still really need to learn to have. Like, we need to be able to say the Iraq War was bullshit. George Bush dragged us into it and Dick Cheney because for reasons that had nothing to do with 9/11, even though that's how they sold it. But at the same time, yes, all those Americans who went over there and fought and sacrificed and died or came back broken people or broken mentally or whatever, deserve to be taken care of, are heroes, even though they committed that service, in the service of a bullshit war. They're not bullshit. The war was bullshit. The politicians who started the war are bullshit. The people who fight the war are doing their job and doing it well.
Right. And you're right. That does need to happen. That is an easier conversation still than what to do about it now when you're arguing to bring them home. Like, once they're home, it's easier to get to the point of, we have to honor them. They didn't decide to go.
Right.
But how do we handle being over there? And when we think it's important to say, hey ho, should not go, bring them home, that somehow
helping the enemy
and undermines their effort, and that's trickier. But that anyway, that was a great conversation.
Yeah. And the adjunct thing of, like, as a politician, how do you talk about that stuff and give it the weight it deserves without looking like you're milking your personal story for votes?
Right, I agree with her. I admire her. George McGovern in 1972, while getting among the first Democrats to get beat up for being a dove, right? Won't be tough on the Soviet Union, won't fight in Vietnam, hammered for being weak on defense. And George McGovern, I think, did, I don't know, 3 or 4 tours. He flew 40 or 70 bombing missions over Germany, right? I mean, most people in his squadrons did not come back, and yet he flew them, and he survived, and they came back barely a couple of times. And McGovern was always like, everybody did that. That was your duty. I'm not talking about it. I'm not going to score political points on the fact that I served and some guys didn't make it. It's just, that's not right. And my dad would think, I love you. That's admirable. Fuck.
Yeah. So I mean, so for a 1-hour show to be getting into all this stuff, like this is some great writing.
Also, a nice little moment of Carrie clearly accidentally slipping as she ran to the car.
Yes.
Unless that was the stunt, but I think that was Carrie.
I think it might have been. Yeah. Oh, and the return of Astrid at the
and the return of
last
Astrid. So I guess Peter somehow smuggled out of there, not because they were going to kill him, but because she got tipped. Maybe that he was in serious danger.
Right.
Through her, and came in and was like, oh, no, we take care of Peter.
Yeah.
And came in and got him. God bless Astrid.
Well, we hope. We'll see what happens.
Oh, and I loved, I love the spy stuff. So the Saul leaving his coat for the guys.
Yes.
And we knew when she said, I've had so much on my plate. And he's like, so that was good. And the way Saul let that guy off the hook, can you do a background, see what he's like, not without sending up flares.
Yeah.
And Saul's like, okay then, Matt, thanks, man. You've done all you can do.
Yeah.
And then we get this whole new interesting relationship of the back channel with the Russian spy.
Right.
About like, hey, we're agreeing to help each other because on the understanding that we're asking to help each other in an effort to mellow out pressure around the world, stabilize things for our bosses.
Yeah, it's nice to hear a reference to the Residentura that's not on the Americans,
Americans, which starts this week or next week.
Yeah, very soon. I can't wait.
Yeah. All right.
We'll catch you guys next time. Thanks.
For episode either 7 or 8.
Is it one of those?